Every word of what you just said was wrong. The rebellion is reborn today. The war is just beginning. And I will not be the last Jedi.
Rey Skywalker.
The date is April 7th, 2023. It was announced that 3 new Star Wars movies would be coming out in the near future, one of which being led by everyone's favourite Star Wars character, Rey Skywalker. And in that very moment, millions of Star Wars fans screamed out in terror and were suddenly silenced. And guys, I get it. I really do. I know there's a lot of people out there who absolutely despise the sequel trilogy and Rey as a character with all of their heart, and there is nothing I can say to change that. But for me personally, I feel like I am the only human being in the world who is actually genuinely excited for this movie. And the reason why I'm making this video is to tell you all why. I am going to tell you all the ups and downs from my personal experience with the sequel trilogy, how this new Rey movie could recontextualize certain things and bring new fans to the previous movies, and the things that gives this movie what I believe the potential to be a great Star Wars movie. So without further ado, let's get right into this. If you had asked fans back in 2008 if they wanted a 3D animated show about Luke, Han and Leia set during the original trilogy, or a show about Obi-Wan, Anakin and his new apprentice Ahsoka set during the prequel trilogy, I guarantee you most, if not all fans at that time would have picked the show set during the original trilogy without any hesitation. But that never happened. They got Star Wars: The Clone Wars, a prequel-based show in a time when the prequels were scorned at. But 16 years later, The Clone Wars is now a fan favourite show that is beloved by the majority of the fandom, and ended up fleshing out and expanding on the movies in almost every way, which is a big reason why I believe the prequels have gotten so much love in today's generation. Anakin and Obi-Wan arguing all the time and seeming like they hate each other, now they get along great. The story being overly political, now it's simplified for a younger audience. Anakin's turn to the dark side feeling rushed, now we see it developed over a longer period of time. The Jedi being complete fucking morons half the time, now it's acknowledged. The Clone Wars actually made me like Anakin as a character, which is something that would have been incomprehensible in the movies.
You are in my very soul, tormenting me.
What the hell is even that?
My point is, the prequels sucked before the Clone Wars show came out. Well, the prequels still do suck, but it added so much more context and lore to those movies. Just look at how fans react when Hayden Christensen shows up in any Star Wars media today. They cream their fucking pants. The thought of the prequels being adored by fans 10-15 years ago would have been unheard of. But the kids that grew up with the prequels and with the Clone Wars TV show, and not to mention all the merchandise and extended lore material they had along with it, they grew to love them and accept them as their Star Wars. And with the same kind of content surrounding the sequel era is a great opportunity for the same to happen with the sequels. Like with this upcoming Rey film, it could recontextualize certain things that weren't handled well in the story, flesh out different characters more, and fix some past mistakes that were made in the earlier movies. Now, I am a big fan of the sequel trilogy, well, 2/3 of it at least. And I know what you're probably thinking. What kind of idiot actually likes the sequels? What kind of Star Wars fan actually enjoys Star Wars? So here's what I'm going to do. To give you all a better understanding, I'm going to run through the 3 movies in the trilogy and give you my brief thoughts on all of them. Starting with... almost a full decade later, I still think The Force Awakens is a great Star Wars movie. It is exactly what Star Wars should be in my opinion. A simple, fun space adventure with likeable, charismatic characters, with great action sequences and powerful emotional moments. Okay, yes, it is very similar to A New Hope, But is that really a bad thing? I see The Force Awakens as a soft reboot that the franchise sorely needed at the time, following a safe but familiar formula and acts as a love letter to the original trilogy. It's here where we are introduced to Rey, and I absolutely love her as a character in this movie. That moment when Rey force pulls the lightsaber out of the snow still gives me chills to this day. Honestly, The Force Awakens is just such an easy movie to enjoy. I'll admit, most of the praise I have for this movie is personal nostalgia. I was 14 years old when The Force Awakens came out in theatres. That movie made me fall in love with Star Wars all over again. It is still, to this day, one of the best cinema experiences I've had in my life, and I couldn't wait to see what happened next. Alright guys, I'm going to need you to hear me out on this one. I've come to the conclusion that The Last Jedi is my favourite in the trilogy. I hand on heart believe that this is the best made Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back. And I just know everyone is losing their goddamn minds hearing me say that. But it's true, I really love this movie. Granted, there's a lot of things I don't love about it, but let's talk about it. Firstly, Rian Johnson brings such a unique, distinct style to this movie that is unlike any previous Star Wars movie. He actually takes risks and does something brand new, which is what the franchise desperately needs more of. Along with that, The Last Jedi is the most visually stunning movie in the entire series. Even people who hate this movie can agree with that. Alright, enough of that, time to get controversial. I absolutely love Luke Skywalker in this movie. The idea of a broken hero who failed to live up to the legend that was bestowed upon him after Return of the Jedi, but showing that no matter how far you fall or lose your way, you can always rise up and come back from it. I don't know man, I just find his arc to be so inspiring. That scene on Crate where Luke is walking out and facing off against the entire First Order is one of my favourite scenes in the entire Star Wars saga. I would watch this over this any day. I love how they continued Rey and Kylo Ren's story. I love the themes that were presented of failure and legacy. I love the scene between Luke and Yoda. I loved all the shocking and unexpected twists and turns throughout the film. Like how they revealed Rey's lineage to be nobody's was so perfect. It would be a real shame if somebody ruined it. That being said, on to the next one. The Rise of Skywalker is a fucking shit show. God, this movie stinks. Yeah, you probably expected me to try and defend this movie, just like I did for the last two, but even as the sequel trilogy fanboy I am, not even I can defend this movie. The pacing is on coke, it has no idea what to do with the characters, the writing is laughably bad at points, it makes it its mission to backtrack on everything from the last movie. Palpatine is back, for some reason. That decision to bring back Palpatine feels so rushed and forced, especially considering not being hinted at or set up at all in the entire trilogy, and we never get a proper explanation for it. And not to mention, they decide to completely out of the blue make the main character of the trilogy the Granddaughter of Palpatine. Why? So the final chapter in the sequel trilogy is a frustrating, disappointing, entertaining at times watch that is tonally and conceptually all over the place. So while I can have fun with certain elements in this movie, that does not mean I think it's a good movie at all. In fact, I think it's really bad. So let that show you that I'm also just a fan who has been let down by these newer movies too. I share the exact same complaints with this film as most people who hate the sequel trilogy. Now I'm going to share what I think Disney need to do to make sure this new Rey movie is done justice. Because even as someone who enjoys the sequel trilogy, I can admit those movies have a ton of flaws, and Disney have had their fair share of hiccups recently. So let's get into it. Alright, so firstly, let's look at what we know so far about this upcoming Rey movie. The film will be set approximately 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker, so that would be 50 years after the Battle of Yavin. So that means a good amount of time will have passed since we last saw her in The Rise of Skywalker. And all we know about it so far is it will be about Rey building a new Jedi Order. Firstly, I think that Rey would be a perfect choice to be at the forefront of this new era of Jedi. Rey's character embodies what the Jedi should be. She's humble, empathetic, wise. Rey is a good person with a good heart and embodies a true hero. Don't you think that Rey would be ideal to be the leader of a new Jedi Order? I definitely do. Yes, it's clear that I definitely preferred her character pre-Rise of Skywalker when she was a nobody and wasn't related to anyone special, but even then, she's a very likeable character that has a lot of potential, and there's a lot of ways they can explore and flesh out her lineage. And to go with that, Daisy Ridley is a phenomenal actress. I recently watched her new movie that just came out, Young Woman in the Sea, and she is genuinely brilliant in that. She's been in other projects since Star Wars 2, like Sometimes I Think About Dying and The Marsh King's Daughter, which I have not seen, but from what I have seen from her recently, Daisy clearly has a wide range in her acting ability, and I'd love for her to be able to show that off more in this new Star Wars movie. Like I said, there's a lot of potential in Rey's lineage that could make for a great part of this story. Something I would love to see explored is the possibility of guilt and shame on Rey's shoulders in being the face of the new Jedi Order. She might feel unworthy knowing she's the granddaughter of one of the most evil men in the galaxy, who caused so much pain and destruction to the Jedi that came before her. There is so much character potential that could be explored with that possibility. Maybe she's keeping her lineage a secret from the other Jedi in the Order. Maybe the antagonist of the movie reveals that secret to them, or to the rest of the galaxy. How would the galaxy react to the news that the head of the new Jedi shares the same blood as Emperor Palpatine? I know I'm not alone in saying that Rey being revealed as Palp's granddaughter in The Rise of Skywalker felt super rushed and forced, because it definitely was. But we could recontextualize it here and flesh it out in a better way, give it a better story in this movie to benefit Rey's character. In the same way that when The Phantom Menace came out, Darth Maul was a nothing character who looked cool then died. His potential got completely wasted in that movie. But the Clone Wars brought back Maul and made him a far better character, and now look at him. He's one of the most adored characters among fans. There would be a struggle in Rey not wanting to repeat the same mistakes of the Jedi of the past. There would be a lot of pressure on her shoulders since she never really received much training or guidance as a Jedi on her own. We could see her implement an entirely different Jedi code since we've seen the traditional ways fail over and over. One of Luke's lessons to her in The Last Jedi was that the Jedi had dogmatic rituals and values, and that led to their eventual downfall and destruction. So to avoid another Vader or Ren rising up from that, update it, do something new with it, change the Jedi code up in some way. You could really get creative with it. And at some point, I would really love to see Adam Driver return as Ben Solo in some way, shape or form. In my opinion, killing off Ben Solo at the end of Rise of Skywalker was a huge mistake. Not only because he was the best character in the entire trilogy by far, but he died while still having so much potential as a character. We should see him in a role as a Force ghost, having conversations with Rey or looking to right the wrongs he made. It's just a shame we can't bring back Ben Solo in the flesh because Adam Driver is an outstanding actor and one of the best working today. But oh well, it is what it is. But there is another sequel trilogy character that is still alive that I want to see in this movie, and his name is Finn. As much as I love and defend the sequels, even I have to admit that Finn was done super dirty in those films. He was set up perfectly in The Force Awakens as a stormtrooper turned Jedi, but was taken in completely the wrong direction in The Last Jedi, and then was pretty much just reduced to a boring background character in The Rise of Skywalker who just screamed Rey from time to time. So many fans, and even John Boyega himself, were left disappointed because they were wanting to see Finn become a Jedi. And this movie, about what is essentially a new Jedi Order, is the perfect opportunity to redeem his character and finally do him justice. He could be being trained by Rey or by her side in restoring this new order. Rey and Finn had great chemistry in the sequels, so I would love to see them back on screen together. And while on the topic of Finn, in the original script for Episode 9 that was being written by Colin Trevorrow, Finn was going to start a stormtrooper revolution against the First Order that was scrapped in the end when J.J. Abrams took over things, which was really damn stupid because that would have brought Finn's character full circle and would have been the perfect arc for him. But there's still a chance for that to happen in this upcoming movie. Finn could rally and bring together some old stormtroopers from the First Order and start a stormtrooper rebellion, whether that's against the First Order or whatever opposing threat could be in this movie. And on the other hand, let's talk about Grogu. Now this all depends on what happens with him in the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu film, but if it makes sense for the story and if it is written well, I don't see why we couldn't see them included too. Grogu would be around 91 years old by the time of the events of the new Jedi Order film, so a significantly aged up Grogu being a part of Rey's new order as a Mandalorian Jedi of some description, that would be pretty sick. And also Din Djarin would be approximately 69 years old by then, so again, if it makes sense, why the hell not? Something else I'm sure a lot of people want to see that people were kind of left disappointed with the sequels is the Jedi back in their prime, which we haven't really seen since the prequels. Say what you want about the Acolyte, but the lightsaber combat was a lot closer to the prequels in terms of choreography, and I'm not opposed to seeing that in this upcoming Rey film. In the prequel trilogy, we never really got to see the Jedi as a collective working and fighting together, aside from that arena battle in Attack of the Clones, but there we didn't really know any of those characters. Imagine a scene similar to this one, but with Rey, Finn, Grogu, and other Jedi characters that get fleshed out. Listen, some of you guys have probably been watching this video laughing at the fact that I actually even have hope for this movie to be good. Some of you watching might be sequel haters, listened to what I had to say and thought I had some pretty good points. And hell, maybe there's a few people that watch this video who love the sequels and are just as excited for this movie as I am. No matter what camp you sit in, I think it's a certainty that everyone who is watching this video loves Star Wars, and we should be appreciative that we're living in a time where we're getting so much of it, regardless of how much you think is good or bad. So please, have an open mind about this film and give it a chance. The movie is expected to be released in late 2026 and I cannot wait. And like I said, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. I've been working on this video for around 6 months now, so if you enjoyed, please click like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. It would mean so much to me. While you're at it, make sure to check out my other social medias like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok and Letterboxd, all at CallumMurphy007. And once again, thank you so much for watching.